I'm inclined to believe the trajectory of evolution whereby humans engage in competition. I'm inclined to also believe that the fields of competition have expanded to ranges that are more socially acceptable. But at some point, those fields are contested not by strong, but rather by the weak, to fit a narrative which isn't within human nature, or more specifically, a man's nature. If strength, skill, will, and determination is no longer needed, then what is the point of keeping a century-long tradition of competition? So, today on the Society of Responsible Men, we are going to break it down and express the need for competition. And joining us today is once again Shady. How you doing?
Yeah, I'm good. Yourself, Adib?
Doing good. How was the Formula One race this weekend?
Well, I'm happy that both McLarens finished on the podium.
Great. I'm not too happy about my team, but I feel that it's more political than anything else. What do you? Ferrari is Ferrari, I suppose. Okay, I'd like to start the conversation by saying that competition is needed. It's necessary. It's very philosophical in some instance. It's not something feminine, 100% feminine at least. It's not something that you engage with by choice. Yes, we have sports and games in which we actively participate leisurely, and some choose to be it as a career, or you become sportsmen in that essence. But there's a saying that life is a competition and we have no choice but to participate. But I want to start this definition by talking about participation, and should we be rewarded to participate?
I love the question that you put it through with participation. And I feel that the reward for participation is you actually ending the task.
Mm-hmm.
For example, you get individuals that when you go and study and you get your degree, you get someone that's got a magna cum laude, someone's got summa cum laude, and then someone who's just got their degree. Should the person that's got his degree be celebrated as the person's got a summa cum laude? No. They've participated, they've finished, and they've got their degree. That is your participation medal. In the same way that when you, in anything in life, if your reward is actually finishing it. Whether you finish first or you finish last, the bottom line is you didn't quit. So that, in the sense of participation and getting that participation medal, is more of you overcoming the obstacles that were set in your way.
Okay, so historically, over time now, fairly recently, should I say, there has been this thing where schools, I'll use schools as an example, in order for a child not to feel left out, they are rewarded with these trophies of participation. Now, I grew up in a time where you took part, you qualified, and you went and you did the race, or you went and you did whatever athletics that you had to do. And if you did not make the top 3, you are asked to exit. I feel that the way that structure was, it kind of motivated me to build something that we call potential, or build the resilience to try harder again and again and again. I feel that participation trophies are not something that is aligned with competition. It's just show up, and either way or irrespective of what happens, you are going to get something out of it.
But for me, I always say it's the journey. I don't believe that if for example, I've broken my ankle and I'm not 100% fit to race, It's a 100-meter sprint. And I say, okay, I'm still going to participate, but the reward at the end of the day, is my willpower to finish. Even if I finish last, the willpower that should be that regardless of your circumstances, even if you're not as good as your top 3 athletes, obviously we all built differently. No one is going to run the 100 meters as fast as Usain Bolt between the two of us. But if we can say that I at least got to challenge Usain Bolt and say that I got to run against him, that's my participation trophy. It shouldn't be given to me on a piece of paper or as a trophy, but the experience of participating and finishing against that person. Because we obviously in this world we compete against ourselves first before we compete against anybody else. Maximizing our potential, and the first way you maximize potential is through going through that little bit of hardship, and the reward at the end of the day is actually finishing that race. Would you be more satisfied getting a participation trophy for showing up or for finishing?
I think in my journey of competition outside of building the practice and stuff, or just from a leisurely perspective, engaging in sport, doing activities outside which requires some level of rivalry, I think I tend to believe myself as a sore loser in some way, shape or form, but I do enjoy the experience. I was there, I engaged, we had fun. I mean, we have a tie in action cricket. I'll explain why. All right, the one game we played with you, we won. The other game we played with you, we lost. And it was this notion, it was this belief that coming away from backyard cricket and actually engaging in a sport where something was on the line, I think being in that journey was actually quite cool.
And the thing is, we never gave up.
No,
that's the thing. It's like I like to look at a participation trophy, and yes, FIFA World Cup is coming up. So if I stand on the correction, please correct me, but I think it's 64 teams in the World Cup.
I think so. I'm not too sure.
But when you look at all those teams participating, realistically, we cannot say that Bafana will win the World Cup. The fact that we got to qualify for the World Cup is already an achievement on its own, because obviously achievements and competition is measured in different stances. If you look at the level of football that Spain is playing at the moment, you'd expect Spain to get to the final. Anything other than that is an underachievement.
Right.
But South Africa already getting there to the World Cup is an achievement on its own. Do they deserve a participation medal? No. Getting out of the group stage has been an overachievement. So I think the realistic targeting and the way we should look at things when it comes to participation is A, my own limits, B, how far am I willing to push myself, and C, am I just there to make the numbers? And if it's the latter of it, then we have a problem, because then you're not participating. You're just going there to waste your time. It should always be the first two. I'm not one that says, and that's my issue that I have with participation trophies, because a lot of these people that come in and participate are just there to make up the numbers. I was listening to an interview from Valtteri Bottas and Sergio Perez when they came back to F1, and they said, we're not joining Cadillac to make up numbers on the grid. We're joining Cadillac because we believe it's a project.
I think they love the sport. They wouldn't have chosen it otherwise.
Yes.
So it's very interesting that you brought up limits, pushing oneself and the numbers. So I feel that if you're there to participate just by pulling numbers, there's zero need for your potential. Yes. So step in, step out, get your chocolate or whatever, and depart. Right? Go back home, or go spend your time with your friends, or in an actual sport, live sports and stuff. I'd say that and go back to your penthouse. But I feel that if what you're saying is limit, how much can we push our body to our limit and push ourselves? I think we are trying our level best to get to what we call full potential, which is, I think, the first thing that stood out for me in that essence is, am I reaching my full potential? Then how do we get there? We have to participate. In order to participate, we have to suffer loss. And in order to suffer loss, that is the only time we are able to grow. There's this thing that I say, in order to achieve something great, we must endure pain and suffering. For if we do not endure pain and suffering, we haven't learned anything. And pain and suffering is not necessarily something tragic or traumatic. It could be something as simple as, how was it for you when you had to finish school? Right? We had to endure 12 years of the good and the bad, but most importantly, we usually speak about the terrors or the trials and the tribulations, or at least the bad subjects that we were in, or we even try to avoid that today. But it was 12 years that we had to endure in order to reach the potential of being, educated or learning something. Then you go into university or college, learn your certifications, learn your degree. You endure 3 to 4 years, maybe 6, maybe 7 years of that. You endure that pain and that suffering, and you are rewarded at the end of the day. Then you have reached the potential of being a professional. So we have to endure, and I feel that how much you can push your body to the limit and reach your full potential is enduring pain and suffering, and I think that falls part of competition.
I think it's also pushing your mind, because a lot of the times our bodies can give out. But the wonderful aspect is, if you're professional and you realize, I'm not going to be able to do this, or nobody can open up a dead body and analyze the intestines and the internal aspect of it. A lot of us will faint. And then you come back and realize, you know what, maybe opening that body isn't for me, but you can become a lecturer. And there's a yin and yang effect to it. A lot of the times when I always like to use sport as an example. A guy comes in, he gets an injury, they become a coach, they become an analyst. You're still competing, you're still participating.
Or even those that retire, they're still in the sport, whether they're coming in as commentators or coaches, as you say, or managers in that essence.
Yeah, and it's all about giving back after you've participated. But the actual fact is, when we say, oh, get a participation trophy because you've just been there, again, it should never ever be made about making up the numbers. There's a reason why there's 11 footballers on each team.
Right.
There's a reason why there's 15 rugby players on a team, or 2 Formula 1 drivers in a team. They're not there just to participate or to make up the numbers. They're there to be the better version of themselves than what they were yesterday. I watched the Siemens advert a few years ago, and the thing that stuck out to me was, don't be satisfied with yesterday's performance.
Don't be satisfied with yesterday's. Tell me more about that.
So if I was great yesterday, then I must use yesterday's performance as a benchmark to be better today.
Okay. And I think that brings me to a particular individual that is sort of a legend in our world. It's kind of someone who actually motivates us to go to the gym, and that is Arnold. So I was listening to this podcast called Founders, and Founders is effectively it's sort of like a person narrating another person's autobiography, but the people's stories that is narrating other guys that made a significant contribution to the world. We're talking about Steve Jobs, we are talking about Elon Musk, and then of recent was Arnold. And I never understood how Arnold was so determined until I was listening to this podcast, and then I was listening to his speech afterwards. And so Arnold grew up in Austria, and he didn't want this, he called it a mediocre life, you know. I remember saying, it's like, no, get a mediocre job and marry a woman named Heidi. And he wanted to be a bodybuilder. So when he got to America, he worked out at least 4 hours a day. Right? He wanted to be the best. If he came out second, he was still at the gym. And if he came out first, I mean, he won his first Mr. Olympia, he still went to the gym. And I think that's the determination that we talk about, is participation is the key. If participation is the key to engaging in something that you love, then testing your boundaries, your limits, putting your mind into it and so forth will help you reach your full potential. We even come down to race car drivers like Lewis and Schumacher. What drives them every single day to get onto the grid? You know, like what was Lewis's mindset to be a 7-time world champion? What was Schumacher's, right? And I do feel that it is the need to push yourself to beyond the boundaries of what people think is enough, and go and reach that potential of being a champion.
Because I say a lot of time, you know, when we participate, and it's like the animal kingdom. Mm-hmm. You get your animals that are there, but participation only gets you so far. Mm-hmm. Now, I'm not saying the difference with us and the animal kingdom is animals dominate. Mm-hmm. We don't necessarily have to you get titans that dominate the industries, but everybody eats. Right. And in the animal kingdom, it's not necessarily everybody eats, it's the strongest that eat. And let's look at a nice example of participation, and this is amongst peers. I don't know if you played God of War.
No. Well, I have. It's just not one of my go-to games.
Because I like to use God of War as an example. We can use Call of Duty also.
Okay.
So let's look at it. It's one of the harder games to play. But when we used to play, everybody would be at someone's house who had a PlayStation.
Right.
And we'd play. All of us would participate in it. We didn't care at the time who won, who finished the game. We all got a chance to play. Mm. But then, in our personal capacities, we would go back, play God of War again, and ask each other maybe a week, 2 weeks later, dude, what level did you play on? And what was your hours finishing?
Right.
Right. We participated together, but now we're also participating as individuals. So it's even with your levels, because every time you go up a level, you suck at that level. Mm-hmm. So do you ask yourself when you go to the next level? Again, let's look at the World Cup, FIFA World Cup. You get out of the group stage. You get 3 games to shine. If you fail in that 3 games, you go home.
Right.
If you pass in the 3 games, you go to the next round. But now there's no second chances in that second round, because it's a new level, and you can fail or you can succeed. And participation is then obviously how you look at it once you failed. How do you get back up? That's why the FIFA World Cup, your Rugby World Cup, and Cricket World Cup is so awesome. Even your Olympics, it happens every 4 years. Mm-hmm. And the beauty of it is it happens in a different on a different continent, different country, different terrain from what you've experienced before. Mm. So it's a new level and a new way of participating, leveling up, maturing your mindset, your body, and determining yourself to go better.
I think you touched on something very important, right? So you made the notion of dominance, and you're right. Dominance, our type of animal kingdom is very different, right? But I think you touched on. I want to link these 2 things that you mentioned: dominance and maturity, right? And I think that you were alluding to competition as a maturing type of tradition in our lives. So as a child, we would play, video games with our friends, multiplayer, 4-player, 3-player, 2-player, whatever the case may be. And we would have this level of competition whether we're talking about that analytical sense that even though you did win the race in Forza, I was 1 second behind you. Or in Call of Duty Team Deathmatch, even though you did win the battle, I was 5 points behind you. And it sort of is fun in that moment, but it builds this, it matures you or prepares you for the competition ahead. Now, as we get into, as we get older and as we get into more in different aspects of life, whether we're going to college or whether we're starting out at work, dominance matures. And how does that happen? Does it happen because of our participation and how much we endure, or is it, or could it be something else?
I think it comes from the endurance. If we look at, I always like to look at our Springboks. And so what a lot of people don't realize is when we hosted the World Cup in 1995, after extra time, and I felt this is the best way of any team that participates in any tournament. This should be the rule. Obviously, it's an entertainment factor. Now we have penalties and kicks. But at the end of extra time in the 95 World Cup, if the scores were still tied at 12-12, we wouldn't have went to kicks. It would have been the World Cup that South Africa lost.
Right.
And it had to do, it was obviously we were participating, but we're speaking about a maturity aspect now. The World Cup would have been decided on which team had the best disciplinary record, which team committed the least infringements throughout the game. And if you sit back and you look at it now, there's dominance. I can completely dominate you. I can bully you physically, but I'm creating all these fouls. But the maturity aspect is, okay, we'll allow him to dominate because we know we can win on that fair play rule.
Right. Okay. I get you. So that fair play rule is something that sort of, well, first of all, prevents injury, right? And second of all, we don't want to brawl in football. We want to see mature competitors on the field scoring goals and playing a game. And I think that comes down to the point of sportsmanship, is that we want to see sportsmanship, yes, but we don't want it to be something that is, okay, if competition is a rivalry, I understand that. We don't want it to be something that would cause, what's the word? Dangerous, malicious harm, or animosity.
I think you want to have your best at all time. That's when you want to participate against the best. It's like, again, focusing on rugby. I'm going to get a lot of stick for what I'm about to say, but so be it. For me, it's the best team and physical contact sport in the world. But just before the World Cup starts, the official rugby song is called "The World in Union." And there's a part of the song that goes and it speaks about participation, but it also speaks about your competition. And it goes, we face high mountains, must cross rough seas, we must take our place in history and live with dignity, just to be the best I can, sets the goal for every man. If I win, lose or draw, there's a winner in us all. So I think when you participate, it sets the goal for every man, whether you win, lose or draw.
Right.
And again, we're looking at the FIFA World Cup this year. Do we expect Bafana to realistically get to the final? No. That might be a lose in the sense that we didn't get to the World Cup final. if we go undefeated in the group and you draw a couple of games, we've drawn, win, lose, and then if you win, you get to the second round or maybe the quarterfinals, it's a win for us. But that's just if a win, lose, or draw, there's a winner in a sort.
I think alluding to Bafana, I'll go back to 2010.
Yeah.
Right? Just help me recollect here. We drew that match with Mexico, right?
Yeah.
Right? But I think our victory was that first goal. We scored the first goal.
Yes.
Right? And I think that helped us, it helped Bafana in some certain level of maturity, knowing that their country was never behind their back before this game, before this tournament. And now we're backing them because they scored the first goal. We are hosting the World Cup. There was a lot around it. But I think that's what I can use as a good example right now.
And I think if you look at it also, let's look at it 4 years before that.
Okay.
Or not 4 years before that, but 6 years before that, in 2004. When Sepp Blatter was standing there, and when we put in our bid to participate for the World Cup, and the winner is Deutschland.
Yeah.
It destroyed all of us because as South Africans, as Africans on this continent, but what did we do? We lost, but did we not put in a bid to participate and host the 2010 World Cup?
Exactly. We did do that participation, which comes down to that participation point, which links to dominance and then maturity of trying again, persevering, reaching the full potential. I mean, we are still rated one of the best World Cups that was ever held here in history, I suppose. Okay, I want to come back to something that you made mention of, sportsmanship. And as responsible men, I think that sportsmanship is something that begins with a single handshake. We understand that we are both fighting for the same thing, be it a corporate promotion or a sport that has no other, just a sport in that essence. But it must be done, we acknowledge as men responsibly that there is a rivalry, and it is not a toxic rivalry that would cause harm to our health, our mind, our body. And it is something that at the end, which is the goal, whoever wins, there must be acknowledgement of the winner. And we cannot throw a tantrum, so to say, because we lost.
I love how you put it. It just remind me of Antoine Dupont. When South Africa in that epic 2023 quarterfinal against France. Ben O'Keefe was the referee, and being a diehard Springbok, I remember the last time we had a New Zealand referee in a quarterfinal of a World Cup, we lost, and that was against Australia.
Yeah.
And ironically, Ben O'Keefe was the man of the match in that game. But at the end of the game, Antoine Dupont, the captain of France, refused to shake the hand of Ben O'Keefe because he was built up as the greatest rugby player of all time. Which, again, I will dispute that because it's the Northern Hemisphere that's saying this. But when you looked at it, Siya Kolisi went to go and shake his hand, shake O'Keefe's hand, and Dupont blamed the referee for certain calls. And I was like, again, you don't throw tantrums, as you said.
Right.
It's a handshake. You're the national captain. You've been put into that position. Yes, we all participate. Yes, there's moments of passion.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, you also have to be a gentleman in defeat.
Right.
When Sila, as you know, the first episode we did, when Sila was speaking, and we always talk about taking losses.
Yeah.
Taking losses is part of also participating.
I think taking losses is that catalyst that enables us to mature and become dominant in our particular fields of competition.
Look at look at Nike, not Nike. I'm sorry. Look at Adidas and Puma.
Uh-huh.
There was a sibling rivalry. They were both competing for the same piece of land in terms of clothing. And look at them today. Two brothers across the river from each other. And they're probably the two biggest sporting brands in the world.
I'm still a Puma fan. How about you?
Adidas.
See, I think I want to make an example as well of a non-toxic, detrimental to health sportsmanship like kind of thing. And I want to go back to 2021. Now, you know where I'm going with 2021, right?
Yes.
The controversy about Max Verstappen and Lewis Hamilton.
Yeah, Michael Massey messed it up.
Right? And I think there's a couple of us on one side that said Max deserved it, and there's a couple of us that are on the side that says Lewis deserved it, and there was just a poor interpretation of the rules. And I want to focus on Lewis in that moment when he parked his car off. He sat there for a good minute, and I would imagine he was overwhelmed with so much emotion at this point that he didn't know what to do. But what he did after he stepped out of his car was showed sportsmanship. Congratulated Max, stood on the podium as second, and continued on to try every season to get to that 8th world title.
I think I'm going to get shot here by a lot of Lewis fans.
Right.
What Massey did was wrong. Interpretation of the rules. I'm a stickler for F1 rules, as you know. But what it did was when Lewis sat in that car for a minute, he couldn't drive off into the sunset because he would have retired after that season. I
felt that he would have retired as well.
But in a sense,
and I'm a Lewis fan.
But in a sense, Massey did something good because unfortunately, Ferrari's car is awful at the moment. But he ignited that desire for Lewis to go in and win that 8th World Championship. Do I think that after 2021 he should have left the sport? I do. The regulations killed him the following season.
Right.
But that motivation stuck. And when you talk about taking a loss, he was screwed out of the World Championship. But he's come back and he says, I am not going to retire until I get that 8th World Championship.
Okay. Now, I think we're using a lot of examples about people that have reached their limit and want to achieve greatness. But we want to address people in their current fields right now. We're using sports a lot, right? But I feel that if life is a competition, we are actively participating.
Yes.
So like, I have a private practice, and I'm probably indirectly competing with other private practitioners out there that are doing wonderful jobs, trying to assist people in their mental health. You were in a corporate workspace environment, and that in itself is a gritty competition. But I want to talk about corporate workspace, right? Now, I believe that everyone goes in, and this comes from participation, right? I feel that participation trophies, at least.
Yeah.
I believe that participation trophies create a sense of entitlement to be there. I am there, I have arrived, therefore I can just be and then do whatever I want and leave, and there will be no consequence to it. Now, as you get older, I feel that maturity to dominate doesn't build. It does not create a responsible boy, therefore a responsible man, to understand that competition requires maturity, right? In order to dominate in the industry that you want. Be it dominance doesn't necessarily mean become the next,
or have the monopoly,
Adrian Gore.
Yeah.
Right, so to say. But at least to say that if my purpose is to be successful, my goal is to be an executive and then retire happily and be, that is my competition. That is my 8th world title, so to say. And this is how I feel that people get into it. after how participation trophies have really messed up at least men in this world, right? They go in as overachievers. They realize that the corporate industry or the workplace industry is not that. They will hurt you. They start to water themselves down to being an achiever. Now, okay, maybe not the executive, but maybe management role or stuff. And then they go in with that mentality, and then they suffer another defeat, and then they water themselves down to being underachievers to say, you know what, I'm probably going to retire an analyst, right? I don't feel that is a good mindset. And I never ever felt that was a good mindset in any shape or form. If you have a purpose, your purpose is to be successful. And if you want to achieve that executive position and retire and go off into the sunset, go to Florence and retire for life, the ability to mature in through endurance does not allow them to dominate.
But I think I'm gonna use the Adidas and Puma example.
Right.
Do you think if one of the brothers said, you know what, screw it, I'm not going to start, I'm going to remain comfortable, I'm not going to start Puma,
right,
I'm going to stay with my brother at Adidas.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of the time within our corporate environments, I say to a lot of my friends also, I said, if you don't see any growth within the environment you're in, you got two choices: look for a new job,
yeah,
or leave. Actually, got three. Right. Look for a new job, leave and start your own company, or sit there and remain comfortable. And you spoke about achievers, underachievers, and overachievers. An underachiever for me is, especially within your corporate environment,
mm-hmm.
and that can be a manager, it can be a director. But if his pool, if he sees he can dominate his pool and he can bully his pool, then he's an underachiever.
Right. So if he is a manager or director of this particular department, he's only in this department and therefore an underachiever. Is that what you're saying?
Yes, because he hasn't moved out of that role to go into a different department that's struggling.
So would you link that to what, skills development or anything like that?
I say comfort.
Okay.
Above anything else. Again, you look at your Fortune 500 companies, the guys move around a lot. I think every 2 years you move.
Mm-hmm.
And it starts from your assistant right up to your exec.
Mm-hmm.
And then you get the achiever, the guy that's been there. He's a manager. He's with people on his level. And he says, okay, you know what? I'm happy where I am. I will retire as a manager.
Okay.
Right? That's fine. You've achieved. You're an achiever. And then you get the overachiever, which will be the guy that started from an awful background. And I always love listening to Patrick Bet-David. And his testimony was, he was a kid from Iran, divorced parents, came to the US, no degree, started his own company. If you look at those aspects, he's actually overachieved.
Mm-hmm.
Where you have the kid that's come from a good background, has had the potential, but is deciding to be a whale in a river.
Sure.
That's an underachiever. I think that sums it up the best.
I thought you were defining an overachiever.
No. If you're a whale in a river,
oh, okay. No, okay. Now I'm following.
then you're not achieving anything because you're comfortable within that surroundings.
Right.
We look at an apex predator like a crocodile. Crocodile can move anywhere. So what is a crocodile? A is an opportunist, which makes you an achiever and an overachiever,
mm-hmm.
and B can adapt to any surroundings.
Mm. Well, water, fresh water, and earth. Okay.
Salt water, even a cockroach.
Right.
Because that survival instinct is there,
mm-hmm.
and that's when you overachieve. But you're an achiever when you overachieve.
Mm-hmm.
When you underachieve, it's like, oh, you know what? I'm just gonna die.
I think that comes down to the other part where so I've given you the mindset of an individual, because like reducing their expectations of themselves. That's number one. And I feel that's one thing that kills competition, right? So back of the grid, so to say, I will be this way, because they're not willing to dominate, or they're not willing to endure the pain and the suffering of becoming more dominant. And then we get the people that want to dominate, or are in that essence of, I want my goal, right? I want my goal to retire as an executive in this position, be it whichever department it may be, right? Or whichever campus it may be. But now we have this thing about inclusivity, right? And I feel that it is another aspect of a person's a barrier, so to say. Now, how does one mature from inclusiveness if it is a barrier?
Well, it's a compelling question to ask, actually, because I think inclusivity, part and parcel, goes with participation. And I cannot say I want to, and I think the word is used incorrectly.
Okay.
Right? If I'm fantastic at drawing, right, I'm an artist, but now I say, but certain individuals say, oh no, let's include him in a medical field. Never in a month a Sunday am I going to succeed in that field. A, it's not my expertise. B, does it really interest me? And I think a lot of the time when we include people, we've got to ask the question, are you interested? If you're not interested, then why should you be included?
Right.
Right. The difference with participation is if that person is interested and that person wants to participate, you'll find that, again, we went hiking a couple of weeks ago. It was a 10-kilometer hike, and 2 kilometers in, I was dead. The rest of the guys, they managed to finish. I cramped up and everything, but it wasn't me being included into it. I participated, and I had a choice. I could have surrendered at 5Ks. I could have surrendered 7.5. I decided to endure and do the 10. My participation trophy was actually finishing, as you alluded to earlier. But now, if I'm going to include someone for the fact that you don't want to make them feel out or secluded, it's the wrong thing to do. Because if someone, again, doesn't like hiking, you can introduce them to something, but if you're not going to show interest in it, we cannot enforce it upon them.
I was thinking more on the lines of, socio-political, well, not necessarily law, but policy. America has these pride-colored policies and so on and so forth. And I think we sort of adopted it over a period of time as well. I've also seen corporations become extremely sensitive, and the competition that is happening over there is behind cloak and dagger. I'll explain. I can say something to you in full confidence, and you will run to the manager and say it in a way that will get me into trouble.
Yes.
Right? And I don't believe that type of I don't believe that, and the only way you're doing it is to get rid of me as a competitor.
Yes.
Right? I find that as cheating.
Yes,
in
that's
some way, shape, or form. Right? You're cheating the system using policy and so on and so forth. And me as an innocent bystander that has told you a particular story or whatever, said it to you in confidence, said it to you as perhaps advice or something, and you took it offensively. And I don't think that is conducive to anything. I think if anything, it reduces the amount, or one's ability, or at least the man's ability, to compete in the pool that he is in.
Yeah, no, I agree with that also. Because again, I will say that comes down to even any form of backbiting. Is you're an underachiever. End of story.
So anyone who backbites and complains and is a full-blown Karen in some way, shape or form is an underachiever.
Of course, because you eliminating a competition.
Right.
And when you spoke about inclusivity, there are barriers, certain barriers, right? And we cannot be ignorant to the fact of it. But I believe that today those barriers have been broken down over time.
Right.
There was a time where, again, going back to sports entertainment, the WWE, the woman would have bras and panties matches in the Attitude Era. So 25 years ago, that was that. But now they're main eventing pay-per-views. That is now including the women that want to participate.
Right.
Right. Not being inclusive of someone that just wants to show a face and say, oh no, I was there. These people want to take the forefront of it. So when you include someone, yes, let them have that limelight. But they have to, on their mindset and on their own discernment, say that, you know what, I want to be part of it. Because inclusivity and participation works hand in hand.
Yeah.
Again, I can't say, oh, I want to be included on the paintball, but I don't want to get shot.
Well, speaking of which, are you joining the paintball game?
Unfortunately not. But
Flop.
yeah. Well, I'm a Chelsea fan, so we flopped the season. But when you look at that inclusivity thing, it pisses me off. It really does. Oh no, we've got to be inclusive of this people and that person. If there's no interest, you can't include the person.
I think a responsible man will acknowledge that there are certain rules and policies around competition, irrespective of his field of competition. And he will acknowledge it, and he will only utilize it when necessary, but he will not utilize it to get ahead.
Yes.
I think that's what we are trying to drive here.
Because I think again, when we look at, let's look at inclusivity. And unfortunately, and fortunately, sport is the common man narrative.
Okay.
Right. It's a general topic of discussion amongst men. But to include a male or a trans woman into a female sport, that is not inclusivity. That is that guy that's underachieved his entire life and has found a loophole to come in and say, I'm going to participate in a woman's sport and I'm going to be better.
Right.
Right. Or taking someone that is completely out of their element based on a certain ethnicity and saying, okay, we are going to give you that opportunity. Again, inclusivity is also based on participating, but more importantly on merit. You have to merit your place, and competition is all on merit.
Right.
The best are there on merit.
I do agree with the fact that competition is based on merit, and it does come down to the point of a responsible man knows that. Number one, he also knows that there are rules and regulations to winning a promotion, or whether they are winning sort of winning a game in that instance, shape or form. And I will also come down to the point where I can say that a responsible man is that who is respected and respectful will accept his outcome irrespective of what the outcome may be. Now in a competition, there's win or lose, and the very fine line of a draw, but there's win or lose. And I feel that a responsible man who is respected and respectful and is dangerously confident will accept his outcome. So he will shake the hand of the victor, and he will have his hand shaken by the loser. But I feel that a weak, unrecognizable man is an individual that will walk away with a temper tantrum, or break whatever he needs, and go on to feel sorry for himself and feel entitled that he should have won that on the grounds of appearance.
Yes. And I think that's where inclusivity also comes in.
Yes.
Because if you look at, let's look at our childhood. I always get confused between the two, anime and manga, but that's on me. But look at Goku and Vegeta.
Right.
Perfect competition.
Mm-hmm.
One hated the other. Vegeta envied Goku
Yeah.
to an extent, and Goku respected Vegeta
Yes.
for the opponent.
Yes.
But look at it throughout Dragon Ball Z. The entire saga was Vegeta always envying Goku. But with that envy, there grew respect amongst the both of them.
Of course.
And Vegeta eventually achieved his goal. He didn't come to Earth to participate. He came to push himself to be a better version of what he was. Because he knew that leveling up, and we always say about you sucking at the next level.
Right.
It's the same when you decide to play to up the level on any game. You're playing Call of Duty and then you go from hard to expert. And that first stage that you cleared easily, it's going to now take you 45 minutes because everything is faster.
Right.
The AI is smarter. And you're like, holy crap, what's happened here?
I think the best example in that essence is I've just recently upgraded from beginner to I think it's the next level to ACC, Assetto Corsa Competizione, and I'm getting my ass handed to me, and it's not fun. It's not fun, but the truth is, I feel that if I had to use ACC as an example, I can say that I do need that period where I need to take a step back, and I do need that period to really think about how do I need to race Monza, race Silverton, race Imola. I need to go back to the drawing board and say it's not like what it was before. It comes back to the maturity point. You have to constantly learn, or as I wrote, sharpen the sword. You have to sharpen the sword for every battle that you do. If you do not, you are 50% going to lose. I think what we can do is draw to our conclusion of our segment. I see there's a lot of points that Sila has written today. Don't you think? You closer. What does it look like?
There's a lot.
Has he written a dissertation for us?
Well, that looks more like a script.
Okay, at least. Okay, so we're going to take a break and then we're going to come back and Silas going to throw his spanner in the works. And we are going to do our level best to answer those questions.
And include him.
And include him. And let's see how it goes from there. So we'll be back in a bit. Okay, welcome back to another episode on the Society of Responsible Men. Now we're gonna throw some spanners in the works on what we were discussing, but before that I'm gonna warm myself up with a lovely can of Red Bull and then give the floor to Sila. Sila, welcome back.
Thank you for having me back. Is that an ad for Red Bull?
Hey,
I'm a Red Bull fan.
We need all the endorsements we can get.
Let's hope they give us the endorsements. All right. So, based on the discussion that you guys had, I wanted to talk about the full potential aspect that you mentioned and pose the question to you guys of when is enough enough? You've reached your full potential, right? Let's say you've done that. Now, do you go beyond that? Or is it in the spirit of bettering yourself, being better than you were yesterday? Or is it the case that there is a point where you do not go beyond that, where you cannot go beyond that?
I think, I theorize that with anything, there is a limitation to that. I think what we were referring to, that while you in your field of competition, you have to surpass your limits. I feel that at some point there is an end point. Like I said, like we theorize or like we speculate that if Lewis won his 8th world title, he would have retired. If no, but that's the only example that I can think of at the moment. But then we also look at Michael Schumacher, and that is, why did he return? What was his purpose of returning? Did he also want the 8 world title? We don't know. But enough is enough when you have reached a purpose, where you have fulfilled all your purposes and you've reached your goal. If you want to go beyond that, that's absolutely fine. But I feel it's very subjective. I would say that once you reach your goal, then what's next? And that's a very subjective thing to kind of pose as a question. I think also, if you are a responsible man, you have an idea of what you want for your life after you've obtained your goal. And again, that idea can be anything. What do you think, Shady?
I think when you know enough is enough is when you've made peace with that chapter in your life. You mentioned Michael earlier, coming back. The reason he came back was obviously to participate, to see if he still had it in him. But it wasn't the goal of an 8th World Championship. It was actually to get 100 wins, because he retired on 91. But when you look at enough is enough, let's look at industry. So we're also synonymous with Peugeot. So Peugeot started out as peppercorn shakers.
Okay.
And then they went into bicycles.
Mm-hmm.
You still see the peppercorn shakers, but you don't see the bicycles. And then they went on to cars. And in the same way, like BMW started as engines for aircrafts, and then they went into automotive.
Mm-hmm.
So it's closing that one chapter, and you say, you know what, I've done everything to the best of my ability. Let me try something new. Michael Jordan did it in basketball. He left basketball to go play baseball. Was he necessarily good in baseball? No, but how many times do you get a 2-time pro athlete playing 2 different sports? So I always believe that it's once you've made peace with where you are, you can gladly close that chapter and ride off into the sunset.
So I think again, it does come down to that point of subjectivity. What do you envision your life after you've achieved your goal and after you are victorious in your competition, or after you have accepted the outcome of your field of competition in terms of what you wanted to achieve?
And I think another thing is you realize you realize that you're not limitless. You actually get to that limit where you can say to yourself, I cannot really compete anymore.
Yes, but I'd like to clarify that in saying that whilst you're in a competition, you're testing your limits.
Yes.
Right? Until there is always a sort of limitation that a person hits when they realize that, you know what, I just can't anymore. I can't go through it anymore. Whether it's a biological aspect, so I'm getting older, a mental aspect is like, okay, everything that's around me right now is out of my control and I don't really like what I'm seeing. Or it could be just a psychological thing. It's like, again, there are people that are coming into the field, into this particular field, that are learning faster, that are doing things better. I don't think I can keep up, and I think this is my time. This is my actual plateau, not the plateau at the bottom over here when I was starting out, but there at the top when I am close to the goal that I want. Yeah.
Okay. So knowing your limitations is part of being a responsible man.
Yes.
Responsible man.
A responsible man will be able to test their limits until they realize that this is their ultimate limitation. They can't go beyond this point.
Okay, that makes a lot of sense. I just want to sort of summarize, or to add on to that, with regards to reaching your full potential or goal in a certain aspect, and then once you've acquired that or achieved that, as Shady says, you move on to the next aspect. Then it would be a matter of reaching your full potential in that aspect. So who was it? The basketball player. You said that, yeah. So he went from basketball to baseball. So his full potential in baseball is not necessarily at the same level that it was in basketball.
But it didn't make him an underachiever or a failure, because he achieved something, and that was getting out of your comfort zone.
Yeah. So he did achieve something in that nature, and I think he wanted to test his limitations in other fields of sports, but there was a lot of things that, again, were, you could call them barriers, and if he had passed on those barriers and so forth, maybe he could have been a better baseball player, or maybe not an equal level as him as a basketball player, but close enough.
Okay, cool. Now, next point I have is the inclusivity aspect that you guys were discussing. So, I thought that inclusivity is the antagonist of merit, and Shady was talking about how inclusivity works hand in hand with participation. But participation, like rewards, so what you were saying, participation trophies, weakens competition, right? So the whole thing is participation trophies. I think Shady was defending the whole participation trophies aspect, if I'm not mistaken.
I'm not in favor of giving someone an actual participation trophy. The trophy is once you've completed
The journey.
Yeah, the journey.
Okay, but doesn't that encourage someone to stay on the level of an underachiever and not better themselves, for the simple fact of showing up and being rewarded for the reward being just completion of?
I think that's an excellent question, because if you're given something that's material, right, you're going to sit back, okay, if I'm going to do it again, I'm going to get that material. But if it's set in stone in your mind, it's something different, because there aren't if you're telling the story, there's not witnesses to back you up. There's not that participation trophy to back you up. There's not that piece of paper. So in that essence, you can choose to go better. When we did the 5 and the 10K, the 5K was a walk in the park. The 10K, I saw my ass. Right, I cramped up. I was miserable. But what happened was my participation trophy was actually getting to the finish line, and I can use that as a testimony to better my conditioning. And also, if someone else wants to go and do a 10 kilometer and they haven't prepared themselves mentally and physically, because that was a mental and physical journey, then by all means, if you finish and you finish after 3 hours, it's fine, you finished. But I can't go and give someone who finished at 7.5 kilometers, oh, here's your participation trophy, because you haven't. You gave up. You didn't pull through mentally, you didn't pull through physically, you didn't endure. So that's where I'm against giving someone an actual participation trophy, because this is what happens. Everybody gets they get a physical participation trophy.
Yeah, it's usually, if you had to look at the school system, they usually are given like a little trophy, and a little sweet and stuff. But thank you for coming. And as I said, that creates a sense of entitlement. That means that in whichever field of competition that I go to, I am entitled to something. And that's not the case. Sometimes the reality hits in college. Sometimes reality hits in the workspace. So I think it does. I don't feel the need that participation trophies it should not exist, and I think it does dilute the essence of competition. I'll add on to that and say that if we are talking about competition, let's talk about a game, and in this game you have people that want to compete. That means they have sharpen their sword, so to say, to compete. Then you get those that are testing the waters. They're actively participating, but they're not expecting anything. They want to see, if anything, they're expecting to see whether they would enjoy what they're doing or not. And then you get the people that are like, okay, just go in, see how it is, and you'll come back out with something. I feel that kills the very essence of competition, because your first two layers, they are people that are at least trying, and you get these ones that was like, I never really wanted to be here, but I get a good chocolate. And it does dilute the traditional definition of a competition. It's it sort of ensures in some way, or nearly ensured, that competition should never exist. But it is a philosophy that is lifelong. It has been around long before us and will definitely be around long after us.
Because I think also when you look at the best part of competition, right, and in all aspects of it, whether it's in corporate or in sport, the top three, they get the trophies. The guy standing on your podium, third, second, first. You don't get the guy that finished fourth getting a trophy. He's participated, he's finished. Fair play to you.
He gets rewarded by his salary because he needs to survive, but that is not a trophy. That is lawful.
Yes, and when you look at it, that guy that's finished fourth is going to say, hey, brah, I don't want to finish fourth again. I want that trophy. And a lot of the times the kids cry. So we used to have this thing in primary school, actually. Geez, I'm giving my age now. So we had a thing called a fun walk. And I actually think that more schools should do this. It was a fundraiser on a Saturday. So it was nice in Germiston. We'd walk around the school.
Right.
15 laps. Every time you would walk past, they would stamp your ticket. So obviously, as kids, you find ingenious ways to do things. I used to lie. I used to get 10 tickets, and I used to sit in a corner and I used to walk 50 meters. And I'd always pour water on my face, but I'd always get everybody else's tickets to be signed or stamped. But the guy that finished first, second, and third would actually get trophies. Our participation trophy was that paper to say that was stamped that you completed. You didn't get a reward for it. You didn't get a chocolate. You didn't get anything. So the following year, what had happened? Each grade, they level the playing field. So from grade 1 to grade 7. The grade 1s, with their parents now, had to push through to finish that 15 laps. The grade 2s, and then they started to. That was how the reward system worked. And I feel that is a perfect way to do it. But the top 3 got the rewards. Finished fourth, I'm sorry, there's nothing we can do.
So no participation trophies then.
Participation trophy was a piece of paper to say that we stamped that you completed. Look at the comrades. You don't get a participation trophy if you don't finish. I think it's in the top 10.
Yeah.
Right? But the experience to say that I've done the comrades is a greater trophy than and finishing the comrades than actually getting that trophy.
100%. I think the example that I would use is, again, we'll go back to primary school as well, and we used to have inter-school, running, high jump, long jump, all of that stuff, and I would ask myself, like, okay, why am I at the stadium, but why am I not there? And then when I asked one of the teachers, they were saying that you did not qualify, right? So I could use it in my mind. I could think of it in 2 different ways. Yes, I am participating in terms of support as a crowd member, but I want to be there. Now, how do I get there? I don't run fast. I don't know why, but I need to get there. So I ran, and for the 7 years that I was in primary school, I never once took part in the inter-schools. Come to grade 8, however, in high school, I take 2 golds in high jump, and I take a silver in long jump. And I realized that, okay, maybe running is not for me, but there were other things that I could take in. And I come to the realization that, okay, from an inclusivity point of view, there's a sense of limitation. I don't like to run. Given my height, I still don't like to run. But I don't mind taking a jump, and I don't mind any other thing that does not include me running a distance.
Because I'm going to sound a bit nasty here, but I'm going to use a bit of a stereotype. You mentioned now when you weren't that great in running, but long jump and high jump. It's like taking a jock and expecting him to play chess.
Sure.
And expecting a nerd to go in and play rugby. And I'm not talking nerd with who's got slight build. No, it's an actual nerd. Right? The nerd is fantastic in chess because it's all about strategy.
Yeah.
The jock is a fantastic athlete because his body's working overtime. The nerd's mind is working overtime. But how do they work hand in hand? In competition, the nerd will say, okay, listen, I see you doing that wrong. The jock will say, okay, if he sees the nerd in the gym, no, your technique is not the right way. So the inclusivity part comes in. The jock is including the nerd in his training, and the nerd is including the jock when it comes to thinking outside of the box, not just using your body, but also using your mind.
So I'm confused. Wait, are you for inclusivity?
No, we're not.
We're not.
We were trying to give the example of if this is what the arena is, and I know for a fact that for 7 years I've tried and I've failed. This particular field is not for me, and I refuse to be included into it. So in grade 7, actually, I'll make a correction. I never included myself in taking part or at least qualifying for running. But in grade 8, all the way through, when I realized there's a broader spectrum of things, I realized that I can compete in other arenas. So no, I'm not for inclusivity at all.
Okay.
It's just sentiment. If you're including someone, it's just having a form of sentiment.
Okay, so it's just to, for people to test their, as you said, for people to test their limits, and if this is good or bad for them. But once they've realized that this is not good, then they should bow out of the competition. Makes sense. I want to touch on something you said, Shady, with you cheating in the laps taken. So with regards to that, the competition and maturity side, would you not say that that's kind of bad sportsmanship?
It was awful.
Yeah, exactly. So then the question, right, is, because you're going to encounter people in the world who are going to be bad sportsmen. They're going to sabotage. They're going to do anything to win, because winning's winning, right? In the minds of a lot of people. So what would your prescription be for men in this aspect when coming up against someone who is engaging in such sportsmanship?
Well, I think a responsible man realizes that he cannot be shifted in his preparation to be victorious, right? Very philosophical the way I said it, but the reality is he does not waver in his abilities, and he always shows up and he always competes. And maybe today it's not his battle, the next day it might be. And even though he is aware that there are a bunch of jesters out there, they will most likely eventually be defeated in some way, shape or form.
And look, to be fair, the mothers did ask me to help them, so I was providing a service. But I'll be honest with you, if my father was there and you saw me do it, my father would have skinned me alive, right? Because we don't cheat unless you play tani, which is a normal thing amongst Indians. Then we cheat with the partners. But in that aspect, when I look back at it now, it was funny. But at the time, look, you were just looking for a shortcut. The age-old adage, work smart, not hard. But also, you don't take shortcuts to be the best.
Yeah.
You maximize the time that you have to work on your shortcomings. That's why you get an athlete that will go to the gym and take steroids, and you get someone that will actually build naturally, who's the one you respect more?
Certainly the person who builds naturally.
And again, healthy competition works, especially when we're working together. If I'm going off topic, please forgive me. But look at it like this here. How did you spend your day?
Are you asking a question?
No, I'm saying when you're competing with each other, or we're competing for, we're going to do a triathlon or Ironman, right? How did you prepare during the day for the training? So we're going to take a year to prepare.
Yeah.
How did you do it over the course of the day? How was it spent? What did I take stock of?
Yeah.
The network, maximizing my ability to compete with others, and not necessarily others that are beneath you. Again, when I made that self-love article about myself as a trans minor, scoring 1,025 goals in a season, it was just to take the piss out of people, to show that you can't be 34 and playing for the under-9s. It just doesn't make any sense.
Sure.
So when you speak of that type of inclusivity, you can't be talking about that. And that was 4 years ago. Your tools, what resources do you have to compete with, and how do you grow? Now, if I've got I drive an i10, I can't compete with the BMW 3 Series. It's going to whoop my ass. I'll probably win now because of the price of petrol, but they're gonna come back and say, realistically, I won't be able to beat that M3 off the line. Never in a month, a Sunday.
Vin Diesel would disagree with you.
Yeah, Vin would, but I mean, that's Vin. And then your talents, and this is actually my favorite one. As men in our inner circle, we need to challenge ourselves on things. You and I had this conversation last night, I don't remember, about the 5 things that we think we're actually good at.
We didn't have the conversation technically. You told them.
Well, I signed it.
Yes, you signed the.
And then we look at advisors, who we can look to mentor us and who can mentor us. Because let's face it, one thing, we are all in the top 20% of every level that we compete.
What do you mean? Wait, what do you mean by that?
So my trans minor article, my self-love fictional article about myself, where I was competing with the under-9s, I was beating those kids. I was scoring at will. So that made me my top 20, but did it make me an overachiever, an achiever, or an underachiever? It just made me a bully. So I was an underachiever.
I still don't understand we're all in the top 20%.
So in that aspect, like that example that I like to make about, you're in the top 20% where you go to the gym and you know you can lift more than 15 kilos. So on a bench, right? Your limit, you can actually go to 120, but you remain comfortable at 30. So you're in the top 20% of everybody that's struggling to lift 30 kilos, but you're lifting it with ease.
Okay, so then by that logic, you're saying that someone who is only able to lift 5 kilos and does so, anyone who lifts under that 5 kilos, the person who lifts 5 kilos with ease is in that top 20%.
Yes.
So basically, we're all in the top 20% of something.
Yes.
Okay. Okay, I see what you mean by that. It's not necessarily good.
It's not.
But
that's why we have to level up all the time.
Okay.
And that's when you say, when is enough?
Oh, that's your answer to my question. When's enough? When you know you've reached your limitations. Okay, so then basically competition requires that maturity to understand where your limits are, to go beyond that, and to adhere to the rules of play, basically.
Remain dominant or be dominant in your field of competition. You must mature. We mature through our losses. We mature through our endurance of pain and suffering in the field of competition.
And I think that's all the questions I have, all the statements. Yeah.
Okay, I think we can close there. Sila, thank you for your insight and points and questions and your spanners in the works over there. Shady, I wanted to talk to you about the upcoming conversation that we're going to have. And I think you're going to enjoy this one because it's it might be a bit philosophical, and I think we are going to get into quite a bit of a debate here. And we are going to talk about traditionalism, right? When we say a man is traditional, what do we mean? And we are going to have to put our minds and our thoughts together to try and come up with the definition of a traditional man. What are your thoughts?
This is a topic that I was actually waiting for. So thank you for bringing that up. Traditional man, and I'm going to say this again in honor of my late father, is the values and the principles that he's taught me, that was passed on from my grandfather and from our forefathers before that.
Right. And I think that's the thing that we're going to define. What are these values? What are these morals that we are going to, that men try to bring to us and try to teach us, and how society today has tried to end that. But all in all, thank you for joining us. Thank you for listening. Thank you all for being here. And we look forward to the next one, as always.
Thank you.